How a DUI changed my life. Maybe some of us have had a DUI, maybe not, but we've all been in a position where we think, should we be doing this? If you're new to the channel, welcome. My name is Josh, living life alcohol free. If you're returning, thank you guys so much for being here. So let's get into this. The day that I got a DUI, I thought to myself, should I really be doing this? And the reason was because for leading up to that, I didn't drink and drive. I thought, my friend called me out of the blue. He said, "You want to go to Canada tonight?" And I thought, "Sure. Are you driving?" And he said, "Well, I was hoping you could because my car's not doing too well, and I was hoping you could drive." And I was like, "I don't know about that. I think maybe I should not do that. But maybe I can just kind of try to not drink as much as I normally do, and then eat a little bit, wait, and then we'll just see how it goes." So that was the worst decision I made up to that point. I said, "All right, let's go." So we went. We had fun. At that time in the '90s, it was easy to get over to Canada and back. It was just they just asked you a couple questions: how long are you going to be here? Where are you going? And then that was that. And then coming back into the states, they're just like citizenship. Yes, U.S. Where back? Where are you going back to? And you just say where you're going back to, and then that's it. And and so I thought, all right, well, we'll do this. Well, so we had a good time. We had fun. Uh, I drank more than I had planned, of course. And how many of us do that? How many of us, we plan on drinking a certain amount, we get to that session and we overdo it. And then maybe we get behind the wheel. And so this is kind of for you guys that are thinking about your drinking, or pondering what kind of choices you're making while you're drinking, and kind of help with that. So I got the DUI on the way back from Canada, um, and I ended up going through the whole process. It was 12 months of AA meetings every week. I ended up choosing to go to Narcotics Anonymous instead of AA because I just found that the stories were more interesting. I had to do a alcohol retreat one weekend where MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving, came in and spoke to us, showed us pictures of people that died from car accidents from drinking and driving, and mothers and family members that had children and other family members get hit by drunk drivers. And it was kind of to scare you straight. And I didn't need all that to know that I don't plan on drinking and driving again. I already had to pay hundreds and really actually like thousands of dollars to get out of that mess. It was time consuming, but I went through it. I did it. I got my paper signed every week for AA. I met my probation officer. I did what I was supposed to do, and I got through it. But looking back on it, and my license was suspended for I believe it was suspended for a short time. It was so long ago, but I think that I got a temporary license after like 60 days, maybe. Maybe it wasn't even that long. I think maybe it was short lived, but I had a paper license for a good 3 or 4 months. And in that period of time, I had to fill out so much paperwork for the courts that I ended up writing down my driver's license number from that piece of paper so many times that to this day I never forgot my license number. So I don't know if I would ever remember that had I not gone through all that. But yeah, to this day it's imprinted in my mind, and it's always been the same. So, but what I learned through getting that DUI is that, first of all, it's never a good idea to drink and drive ever. I mean, especially these days. For the last 20 years, we've had Uber and Lyft, and we can just call if we need a ride. I know it's hard to admit that we're too far drunk, too far into our drunkenness to call for help. And sometimes, we just think, whatever, we'll just get behind the wheel and we'll do it. But that is probably one of the worst decisions we can make, especially, like I said, like these days. And it wasn't like back then, where I believe, like in the '90s, it started to be kind of like a moneymaker for townships and cities. So they really started cracking down on that, because, I mean, I think it is. It's like 10 grand now between like lawyers' fees and court fees and everything else. And and back then it was probably a third of that. But still, a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of embarrassment, a lot of shame. A lot of, and I mean, to this day, I'm not going. I can't go to Canada because of the DUI. It's a felony there, and that's neither here nor there. I don't go to Canada, so it's really not that big of a deal. But at the same time, uh, there's paperwork I can fill out to be able to go back into Canada if I ever do choose to do that. But learning what I learned through all that, and as time went on, I felt like, this is kind of a blessing in disguise. It kind of woke me up to the fact that I can't make these choices anymore. I can't, you know, what I mean, drinking is one thing, but the choices that I make impact my future. And so I thought, I'm just going to drink at home. But that was a double-edged sword, because what happened was I kind of started to become antisocial. I'd rather just stay home and drink. There was occasions where I'd go out with a friend and I wouldn't drink. There was occasions where I would insist that somebody else drive, and or if someone else wasn't driving, then I wouldn't go. So it kind of limited my social aspects. Um, I wasn't so inebriated that I was blacked out at that time, but I was still on the, like, way above the legal limit to drive. And as time went on, I started your tolerance starts going up. You start drinking more, but I'm not driving. So in my mind, I'm doing fine. I'm not hurting anybody. I'm not hurting anybody but myself. But that's enough to know that. And as time went on, I started to recognize that, especially into my early 40s, I started to recognize that hurting myself is bad enough. Yeah, I don't drink and drive, but I have anger and irritability issues, and I have uh, issues where I just feel like I needed to, like, lash out, and I've never felt like I was heard or understood, and my self esteem was lacking, and all these things. So uh, it's not just always about the drinking and driving, but the DUI did impact my life, and it left a long term impression on me. It's not something that really, I don't feel like it really stained my my record or anything like that. Um, I feel like there's a lot of people that are in the same boat as me that got a DUI when they were younger. Maybe that's you. Maybe you've had multiple DUIs in your life. Maybe you've had your license suspended. And, I've known quite a few people that have had to ride their bike around town because they don't have a license because of drinking and driving. And I feel like I was blessed enough during that period of time in my life to recognize the consequences. And up until that point, I didn't really understand the concept of consequences. I didn't really honestly care. I tiptoed the line a lot on everything. And it could be small things, but it could also be a big thing, like drinking and driving. And but what I took away from that DUI is consequences. I didn't grow up in a household where I was, like, grounded very often or ever, where my parents reprimanded me for bad behavior, but I hid it a lot. I didn't really do it right out in front of people. I would kind of hide my bad choices, and I think a lot of us, we get away with things for a while, and then and then we keep doing what we're doing, and then ultimately it starts showing through. It can show through in DUI. It can show through in other legal issues. It can show up in your anger, like it did for me, especially as I got older into my like upper 30s and early 40s, where uh, having a family and being angry all the time and irritable and having this low self-esteem where everything that my kids would say would like bother me and could set me off. All those things kind of led me to think like these are lessons, and I have to listen. I have to kind of understand, and even though I don't think about that DUI, uh, I do kind of. It's part of my story. It's part of my experience, and I learned what consequences are to those actions, and it did help. It helped tremendously in that. And I didn't really think about that until I just kind of said that here on this video, but it really did help in that. Yeah, it didn't help my social skills, like I said. It didn't help my growth as a human, to just sit at home and drink. It doesn't help. But at the same time, as time has gone on in my recovery, and I'm 5+ years alcohol free, and I've grown every single year since I quit drinking. Uh, it took into about 3 years to really feel like I didn't need to escape anything anymore. I didn't need to. I felt more like I could embrace the things in my life, even if they were tough things. I could embrace what was going on in my life, the things that I have in my life or had in my life, and and take those things and not feel so offended, I guess, by what other people were saying to me. And that really helped in my social abilities. Also, it helped to be able to form better boundaries with myself and with other people. But that came in time, and I guess that's for a different video. But I'm glad that you guys are here to kind of share this journey with me. And if you're struggling, let us know down in the comments. If you want to check out more of my videos, I'll pin the link in the comments below, and I'll pin the link to my Facebook group. It's a private group, Sobriety in the Storm, if you'd like to join that and chime in there. So we'll see you soon, and I hope you guys have a great day.